a fairly easy thing.
Is there a report that has the number of cars per day, or should I back that out of the daily
No, that
sales report?
that has to come out of the activity summary.
Yes, exactly.
And the problem there, as I said, is that this year we had so many new categories added that if you looked at things like non-resident parking and tried to compare it to 2009, you wouldn't have it, because this year we're breaking out the 4th of July. This year we're breaking out evening parking. This year we're breaking out firework parking separately. So there are a number of things that are being segregated, and the numbers just don't match up unless you understand what was included in 2009 that now is broken out into maybe 3 or 4 different categories in 2010.
But the numbers are accurate for this year. It's just the year-over-year comparison that you're saying is not valid. So
I can give you the raw numbers if you'd like. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. That's fairly easy.
Okay, for this year, yeah, because and you know that I don't, these are all used internally, and any time anyone comes to me with a question about the financials, I always defer to you, obviously.
My thing is I like to give the commissioners the information first
before
we distribute it to the public.
Sure. And also the compatible uses document that you mentioned that Lisa Easton did in 2002, can we get access to that?
That's public. We'll be able to provide that.
I think part of that document is found in the binder that she submitted to the Rydtown Park Commission a handful of years ago.
Right, yeah. It's about 250 pages, and we have to slice out certain segments of it because she's got it in a couple of different categories there.
But it is available. And
she and I are meeting on Thursday, and we will have that pulled together.
Right, and I don't think the uses have changed.
Okay. And do I have time for another question?
Yeah.
Okay. And this just has to do with the actual figures that you're showing for this year. And there's 2 questions. One is on the revenue side, would you typically see a fall off in attendance as you get toward the end of the summer? Is there any seasonal variation? And the second question has to do with the expenses, where you had budgeted $110,000 for repairs, buildings, and grounds, and to date, in the 7 months, have spent just under $55,000. So that's a big chunk of change that's left over. Do you still plan to expend that this season? And that does not include the $50,000. Well, or maybe that does include. Is that the capital?
No, the capital is a separate item.
Yeah.
There's 2 questions there. The first question I can only answer by saying to you, last year, July was $305,000. August was $219,000. All right, this year, our July, I think, came in at about $309,000 or $310,000, so the July's matched up pretty well. August looks like it's falling off and is probably not going to come up with the 219 from 2009. It's really a weather-related issue. It's what's the weather conditions at that particular point, complicated by the economic environment today and the significant price changes that we've made. So it's hard to analyze it and say, there's the reason, this is what's going to happen, and there's the reason why. Mm-hmm. You really can't do that. You have a multiplicity of factors that are coming into that.
Okay. And on the expense side?
And on the expense side, I can tell you that you're looking at July 31st. Beach season is still going on. There typically is a lag in terms of when things are expended and when things are actually accounted for and paid for. I would say to you that there's quite a bit more that's going to come in. So you can't really look at the numbers at the end of July and say, aha, we're going to make money or we're going to lose money.
No, I'm just planning, if you were still planning to expend all those funds.
Yeah, I would say to you that a substantial amount of that money has already been spent. It just hasn't been paid for.
Paid for, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night. Anybody else? Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Linda Wells. I'm a Rye resident, live on Radcliffe Street. I'm also VP of the Friends of Rydtown Park. And I just wanted to expand a little bit about a few things that Bill mentioned with regard to our group. One of them is that we are working hand in hand on the duck pond situation, kind of behind the scenes. And hopefully that will be resolved to the public's satisfaction shortly, so that's a good thing. Our gate project is progressing a little slower than we would like for a variety of reasons, but it still will go on. May not be finished this season, specifically because the north end of the beach is now coming into Phase 2 of our master plan, and rather than just installing gates, we're looking at the whole area for possibilities for landscaping, et cetera, which we will have on paper shortly, and we'll hopefully have an opportunity to present to the Commission and participate in the advisory committee that's been formed. So we'll have something to bring to the table with regard to future planning. There will be 2 new benches installed in the park probably within the week. There's been a foundation that's been exposed for a few days, which I apologize for. It was a scheduling miscalculation. So it's been roped off. I hope it hasn't been a safety issue. And we'll get those installed. I think the benches themselves will be at the park on Thursday, and the foundation's poured hopefully in advance, so we'll have those in place pretty soon. And personally, with regard to the dog issue, I just want to say that I was in the park 2 Saturdays ago at 10 a.m. There must have been 15 dogs loose on the knoll overlooking the north end of the beach, and one of the park rangers approached up the hill, and I thought, hooray, he's going to kind of corral these people, and he went right by, said nothing to the dog owners. So I just think that the enforcement of the leash law needs to be put into place. It's crazy. It's out of control. And it's great that the dog people are expressing an interest in the park and want to participate and cooperate, but there is a rather large constituency within the dog population, I think, that's not adhering to the rules. So if they can't, maybe they can kind of administrate within their own group and try to get other people to be more responsible.
Yeah, they said that they would do that as well, Linda, that they would within their own group, so
yeah.
I'll take that back. And you mentioned the Rye-Town Park Advisory Committee. We did establish last month at the Rye City Council to create this committee that would have a representative from Friends, representative from the dog group, and then representatives from around the neighborhood to continue to give me and the council just feedback about the neighborhood impact.
Do you have names for that committee? Yes.
I have 6 names. I'm going to make one more appointment next month. It'll be a committee of 7 people.
Can you send me a copy of that?
Sure.
And then just looking at the numbers on this report, without substantiation, it's a little hard to really comment, except to say that some of the cost centers here have gone up almost 400% since 2007. I'm looking at your telephone expenses. I'm looking at uniforms. Security is up almost 100% since last year, and there's no qualification of these numbers, so it's really hard to say anything other than an observation. And I don't know if the telephones have anything to do with internet or just what, but it seems pretty steep to me.
2008 was our first year that we took over. The telephone bill, that $831 in 2008 was not the correct number. It was higher, so the telephone number at the end of the year will probably be right on budget. It's been $4,000 for the last 10 years,
Okay.
So we're tracking pretty much where we are. What was the other line item you talked about?
I'm looking at uniforms. I mean, I know you've increased staff. I don't know what you're doing.
The uniform at $832 for 2008 is a lowball number. Probably the actual expenditure probably was not put in there at the right time. If you looked at the August numbers for 2008, you'll probably see a clearer comparison going forward. And you're right, but the uniform numbers...
Didn't they get money from Homeland Security for uniforms back then?
I don't know. I said $6,200 is a high number relative to what we've paid in the past. I don't know what...
Well, whereas now it comes out of ARPA.
Well, we also did, we outfitted the parking people, especially where we didn't do it before. I mean, we did a lot more with uniforms this past year, in the past 2 years, actually, than we have. If you notice, there's a much more uniform look with all of the employees. They've got the tan shorts and the teal shirts, and the parking guys all have the bright yellow. So we've done some more extra things to make how can I call it? Make it stand out better and make it more utilitarian.
The lifeguard. jackets and sweatshirts.
And then just an aside in terms of maybe safety, somebody who participates in the volleyball